going to try to work with this mic. If not, I like to walk around, and I look like I'm tied up. So I'm Anselmo Rodriguez Manso from Blue Cross Blue Shield of Louisiana, and I'm also honored to serve as the treasurer for the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce of Louisiana since a few years back. I want to welcome you all today for our procurement panel. We have called it, dismantling the procurement process or something like that. I really don't like that wording because we don't want to break anything, right?
No.
So we want to conquer the procurement process. So let's do a positive spin to that. So I've been at Blue Cross for 30 years, and I've been in different roles. My last role in supply chain management and kind of like the voice of supply diversity. And I say the voice because it's everybody's responsibility at Blue Cross. But I get to share the good news with everybody. I get to share time with y'all. I've been in supply chain since 2006. And definitely it's been a great joy of life, meeting people and development. The purpose of this panel is so we can share wisdom with the experts that have been in the space for years, so they can, first of all, tell us a little bit about themselves, about their company, what supplier diversity means to them and their company, and how we can not break but conquer the procurement process so we can gain access to those opportunities that these corporations have, right? So without further delay, I'm going to start here with Ms. Gina. Ms. Gina is going to introduce herself, so please.
Sure. Good morning. I'm Gina Bertrand. I represent Tulane University. I've been with them for about 18 months. Tulane is just starting their quest of supplier diversity in a formal sense, so in an intentional sense. There might have been people sporadically looking out for it, but now it's actually a strategic initiative. I've been there 18 months. I also did a stint in oil and gas in supplier diversity as well. Anything else you wanted me to?
No, for now.
Yes.
We're going to come back with some. We're going to come back with some questions.
Yes.
Okay. So next we're going to have our friend Rivers. Rivers is happened to be also the chairman of the South Region Minority Supply Development Council. So in addition to representing his company, he also represents the four-state, 4 or 4.5?
It's 4.
Four-state organization that is in charge of minority certification for small businesses. So Rivers.
Thank you, Anselmo. Again, my name is Rivers Frederick, Manager of Supplier Diversity for Entergy. I've been at Entergy for about 12 years. Even before that, I actually worked for the council that Anselmo spoke of. So I've been in that supplier diversity arena for several years. I guess I want to tell you a little bit just about Entergy. I don't want to take too much time. The company introduction now?
No, we'll come back to it in a second. Right now, let's do a brief introduction. So let's move on with Roshan, which is our host, correct?
Correct. I'm Rashawn Spencer. I serve as the Small Business Program Director here at the Convention Center. Prior to this role, I've been at Convention Center for 3.5 years. Prior to this role, I was at the City of New Orleans for about 8 years in the Office of Supply Diversity.
Great, thank you. Last but not least, and hopefully I'm going to try not to butcher my French, Jean-Marc.
We'll take it. Hello, everyone. I'm Jean-Marc Villain. I'm System Director for Supplier Diversity and Community Engagement for Ochsner Health. I've been in that position now for about 2 years, but the program was launched about 18 months ago. Prior to that, I've worked for the Medical University of South Carolina as their first Director of Supplier Diversity as well. And prior to that, I actually grew up, I'm a recovered commercial banker, and I've started a community development credit union in Miami-Dade County, Florida, and serve on the board of the Federal Home Loan Bank System as a federal appointee.
Thank you, Jean-Marc. Now we're going to go back to Gina. I'm going to be asking for each one of you a little bit, a brief question, and I want you to, address it, pass it down, and we'll come back to the next question. At the end, we're going to have opportunity, time permitting, for the audience to ask specific questions. So, Gina, and then the rest of the panel, if you can take turns at this. Why is supplier diversity important for your company?
Well, for Tulane University, I think, and with a lot of other companies, after the George Floyd incident, I think that was when they realized they really needed to put some teeth into what they were saying. So they have a three-prong initiative across the university. It's a strategy, it's a 5-year strategy to cover equity, diversity, and inclusion. And so one is about building relationships in the community, one is about having a campus where everybody can succeed, and one is about EDI excellence in research, training, and service. And so this is all intentional right now. So right now I'm setting up the strategy, but I'm also going to be the EDI director for the business unit. So they're taking it very seriously, and it's going to be a university-wide effort.
Wonderful, wonderful. So they're putting the money with the money with the talk, right?
Yes.
So, Mr. Rivers, tell us about Entergy. I know Entergy has been in the space for a long time. So what's so important about it for Entergy?
Yeah, many years, even well before I got there. So over 30 years, Entergy has had a supplier diversity program. So we operate in 4 states. We're in Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, and Texas. So if you think about what we do, we're a publicly traded company, but we serve a common good. So we feel that our suppliers should mimic or mirror the communities that we serve. So if you think about the demographics in those different states, we actively seek to bring in suppliers that look like the communities that we operate in. Yeah, I can say we've had steady growth and inclusion over the many years. Last year was a landmark year, it was a monumental year. We actually spent over $1 billion with diverse firms, we're trying to replicate it again going forward.
So you'll be playing with the big boys now.
We were playing with the big boys, and we were in that group with companies that are much larger than us as well.
Right.
So as we are doing that, so a lot of factors are driving that growth. So it's much bigger than just my department growing it. Our board of directors has bought in. Gina made a comment about after George Floyd. That really did serve as a catalyst and increase the awareness for a lot of folks, and we really have embraced that mission. But our board of directors, and even not just for Entergy, but for a lot of companies, Wall Street, they're asking about what are you doing for ESG? So for years it was just supplier diversity, now it's supplier diversity and sustainability. And I always like to say the sustainability tie is if we're not using diverse firms, that impacts the company's sustainability as a whole. So it's a good time. I think we're turning a corner, if you will, in inclusion of those diverse firms.
Thank you, Rivers. Sounds like exciting times ahead. So now let's talk about the Ernst Morial Convention Center, our host. What's so important about supply diversity that you're hosting, that you're heavily involved, that you're participating in supply diversity in the city?
Absolutely. It is a call from our board, the authority that governs the convention center, to be inclusive, to level the playing field, have our local small businesses do work here at the convention center. It had always been in the past an environment that our local businesses never knew. They were intimidated by just the very building, just how large the building is. So about 3.5 years ago, they started the Small Emerging Business Opportunity Program. I am the first female Black director here to run the program. But from the program, it was intentional about targeting our small businesses and also our DBEs. So we do DBE set-asides on some of our projects. We also do goals on all of our contracts. So the call of duty for Convention Center is to just be inclusive. And I will be happy to announce today our largest contract in the history of the Convention Center was just awarded our last board meeting, $10 million to a female-owned company.
That deserves a clap, doesn't it?
So the work is happening.
So yeah, and that contract has actually put out there for small, diverse firms
Absolutely.
In the state. Great, thank you.
It's a DBE firm that won the contract.
Wonderful.
Yes.
So young Mark, I know Oxner has been also in this space, but you kind of recent to the role, right? A few years back?
Well, actually, I'm the first director.
You're the first one, so you're newbie to it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So tell me, what took Oxner that leap of faith into making it into the supply diversity arena, and why it's so important to them?
Right. So Oxner just celebrated our 80-year anniversary as a health system in the state of Louisiana. And today, we're the largest health system. And we recently are tipping our toes in the state of Mississippi and along the Gulf Coast. That said, we definitely were late coming into the DEI party. And around the height of the COVID pandemic, the board find it as a business imperative to launch a diversity strategy for the system. And so supplier diversity is part of that diversity strategy. We are about 10 FTEs in that department, supplier diversity. We're a small but mighty team of 2. We have an a program manager.
Super people in it, though.
A program manager that reports to me, although she's based in Louisiana. Now, the reason we do this is healthcare is a very complicated industry, as you know, $3 trillion. And recently, over the past 5 years or so, we've been experiencing a lot of headwind in the industry, a lot of competition. It was complicated, now it's complicated and highly competitive. We have actors that are not from the healthcare space that are operating and threatening our business primarily from a digital standpoint. Because of COVID, we've seen the heightened activities from the Amazons of the world and even CVS. So we find ourselves having to look and trying to preserve a market footprint. And so why supplier diversity? It is a business imperative. As an anchor institution, the future and the well-being of the communities that we serve really is tied up with our own future. We don't have the luxury of picking up our operation and moving, to the Northeast. We're here, and this is where we're always going to be. And so it is for altruistic reasons that we do this. We want to leverage our economic power to be more inclusive in our supply base. So we are obsessed about diversifying our supply base to include local women and minority businesses in our business practices to address the business needs that we have. As you all probably heard and seen, we've been expanding our footprint throughout the state a lot. And so we have a need for more, let's just say, capital projects, for example. We have about 100+ projects right now in our pipeline, and we're looking for companies that can help us do the work that needs to be done so we can take care of patients. And everything that we do is tied up to our mission, which is to take care of patients first and create a culture of health throughout the state of Mississippi and Louisiana. As you probably heard as well, Mississippi and Louisiana, they toggle back and forth, 49th and 58th in terms of health outcome and the ranking nationally. This is something that we find unacceptable. And so the board has made the decision to launch an initiative called 40 by 30. So we are putting a lot of resources, over $100 million to begin with, and standing up these community health centers and communities that have been marginalized or don't have access to good quality and quality care. And so supplier diversity is a participant in that initiative. And so not only that we want to create these health centers in these communities, but we also want to include local and diverse businesses to help us maintain the facilities and providing the services that we need to take care of our patients in these communities.
Wonderful. It looks like you, as the newcomer, you came in with a big bang. Huh?
Thank you.
At Blue Cross, we welcome definitely your efforts into that, as it fits our mission as well to improve the health and life of all Louisianans. So you're definitely counting on us and trying to get us to that 40 level and hopefully higher than that.
Yes.
So thank you for that. If you all can see a common ground into all these visions of supply diversity, there's one thing that kind of bubbles up. It's good business. It used to be altruistic in the old days when Rivers and us started. It used to be driven by compliance. It was driven by altruism, by corporate social forces. But today, the reality is a good business. Is business sustainability, is market share, is tapping those growing markets. So that's a common ground that I see in all this vision here. Now, another interesting question here that comes to me is, as a small business, And again, in the interest of conquering this procurement process, it's always a challenge trying to penetrate this corporation, trying to find the right person to talk to, so it becomes an internal advocate for these small businesses, right? It's always a challenge, know what the right process to do it. So I've asked to each one of the panelists if you can share with us a little bit who is the best advocate for an MBE in your company. And if you can share their contact. Is it you? Is it somebody else? Tell us how a small business can contact this person or group of people that will be indeed an internal advocate for small businesses in your company.
Okay. Well, just like Jean-Marc, I am the first supplier diversity manager for Tulane, so I'm going to be the best person. But I will let you know there's an anti-racism leadership program. It's in its second year, where leaders across the university engage in a year-long training session. There's probably 100 of them at the university, and definitely there are advocates as well. So they're my go-to people that help me support and expand the supplier diversity effort at Tulane. But you can send it to me, and I'm happy to speak to anyone. Generally, I'd like to know what it is that you offer. I'll have a short meeting with you, and then if it's a product or a service that we need at Tulane, then I will connect you with the right person. And we've done that since I've been there in the 18 months. We have several people that we've done that for, so please feel free to reach out to me.
Wonderful. Rivers?
Yeah, likewise, I'm your first point of contact, right? I will say, so from our website though, entergy.com/supplier diversity, we do have a small team, so you can access, I'm there, you see my little picture there. You'll see the other members of the team there, you can contact them. We've got somebody in Mississippi for those Mississippi suppliers. But to utilize that supplier diversity team, I've met some suppliers and they always say, well, I want to talk to that business leader, that's who I really want to talk to. But we're really your first contact. We're the ones who are going to help you to be prepared when those business leaders ask you those tough questions. You know, when you do get in front of them, they're going to ask you questions. You want to be able to answer yes, answer positively. When they say, do you have the safety program that we're looking for? You say, oh yes, I know about that. I've done this already. Are you certified? Have you done that already? Oh yes, I already had that. So when they ask you those questions, we're your team that's going to help you be prepared to when you do meet those business leaders.
Wonderful, wonderful. And that's very important because first impressions always matter, right? Mm-hmm. So these people would tend to identify to be your advocate, the people that are going to get you ready. So when you have that first shot at the business owner, you're basically at your best. So Roshan, can you share with us a little bit?
It's the same here. I am one of this many superpowers that sit here. So I will be the point of contact, all things small business at the convention center. And it's just about basically logging onto our website and seeing what was available. Our website is xhallnola.com. We also have what's called a SEB Connect app. So all opportunities are posted on there as well. But I am the point of contact, and I'll have my cards available for anybody that wants it.
Wonderful. Young Luck, I know you have two people, but I guess you can tell us who those people are.
Well, I'm one of them, but my approach is slightly different. I bring an entrepreneurial approach to the work. And so I look at myself as having two sets of customers, the small businesses, the diverse businesses, and also the people who have inside the organization who have visibility on contract making. And so I collaborate a lot with these leaders. And so whenever we do that, I always tell them, be on the lookout, because I've just came here to the state of Louisiana about 2 years ago. And so you may have, as a business looking to conduct business with Oxnard, you may have, a connection inside the organization that I don't know. I mean, we have 30,000 employees, to be clear. And so it's very difficult for me to know what's going on in Louisiana or Baton Rouge at any given time. And so if you're local there, you may know of opportunities and wondering what to do, and you may have contacted internal leaders about those. And so if these leaders don't know about me, then they would know exactly what to do. So I'm constantly coaching them about using me as the first point of contact when they receive an inquiry from an outside business. And likewise, when I speak with businesses as well, I coach them the same way. Some of them have relationships inside the organization as well. And so they say, hey, I saw this, somewhere in the news or whatever, that you're building a clinic on Metairie, which is a thing, actually. And so I've had companies, once I tell them what I do, and they say, oh, good, I have a construction company, and then we start the conversation like that. So whichever way you reach me, do reach me. I share my cell phone with everybody that I meet, because really I work remotely, and I work in I have offices downtown and at Jeff Highway, and so I'm very available, and I don't really carry business cards or opportunity table. I was just telling somebody that. So the way I do this, I meet you, I have this little app that actually, thank you, Swanika, just introduced to me a little while ago, that I can just share my contact with you right there. And once I have your contact, I send it to my program manager that send you one sheet about the opportunities, and also a short template deck that we use to capture some data points about your business, top line revenues, your pipeline if you have, so we can measure your capacity to address our business needs, so we can right size the opportunity for you. And I've been around small businesses for a long time as a lender, consultant, and now as a supplier diversity leader. And I've seen businesses gone bankrupt because companies were so eager to give them contracts to check a box, and they ended up really
They buy more than they can.
Yes.
They buy more than they can swallow.
So I'm mindful of that.
Yeah. So thank you, Young Mark. One important thing to note here, to take away, is there's not a single way to cut the cake. So keep that in mind. That kind of replicates through other corporations. In our case, Blue Cross, yeah, my name is out there. You can reach out to me, but by no means I'm the only avenue to get there. We got Todd Aycock as well. And we're going to talk about a big question, how we communicate this opportunity. We have a method of communicating opportunities which is a little bit different than just one-to-one contact. But based on that, again, for the panel, can you tell us a little bit, how do you communicate your business opportunity to prospect MBEs? What's the methodology, the platform that you use? So if you would.
Sure. Given that Tulane is just getting into this arena, they haven't developed the platform as of yet. So I would be the person that is engaged with Hispanic Chamber, with the SRMSDC, with the WeBake, and any other organization like that. So right now I'm giving that directly to the likes of Mara Pineda and others that are leading their organizations, but we will soon have the technology for you to put that on our
support
website.
organizations are a key conduit for you to communicate those opportunities.
Correct, until
Right.
we stand up a technology suite so we can do that more efficiently.
So if I might say before we go to reverse, a takeaway there is get engaged, network with the organizations, because that's a way to get business opportunities. That's how the communications flow. So if you're not engaged, if you're not a member, you might miss out. Rivers?
It's a challenge. We don't publish those bid opportunities. Many public organizations, municipalities, you'll see it published and you can respond to that RFP. We don't. We pre-qualify firms and we invite them to bid. Typically that number is somewhere around 5 companies. It may be a little bit larger, a few firms larger, and that's for efficiency. If you have 100 companies responding, it takes a lot of time to go through those bids. So we invite pre-qualified firms. So how do you find out about it? It's really through the first point of contact, the supplier diversity team. So typically what I would ask you to do is, we have that conversation, you tell me what you provide, and we'll kind of coach you through that. Some things we buy directly, some things we buy through a prime contractor. If you think about it, I mentioned those 4 states we operate in. So some things you may see it happening in New Orleans, but it's part of a much larger agreement that takes place throughout those 4 states. So we'll have that conversation, and the opportunity may not be directly with Entergy, but it may be through one of our prime contractors. I see my friend with the staffing firm. We had a good conversation, right, about how we procure staffing services through a prime contractor. So that's another reason to come through that supplier diversity team. So we'll coach you through those things, tell you about those opportunities, and I'm going to add, and someone's trying to bump me off the mic.
Go ahead. I'm not going to hit you with it.
The key is our contracts typically are 3 years. So we may meet today, and we just signed that contract a few months ago. so that you've got to wait again for that opportunity to come up. So the key is to be prepared. You've got to be ready when that opportunity comes up. I remember a couple of times the companies say, "Oh, I'll catch you the next time." I said, "Well, I'll see you in 3 years." So talk to my team, make sure you understand the requirements, and when that opportunity comes up, I say it's where preparation meets opportunity. You want to be ready when it does come up.
So pre-vetting is a big part of your
Big part,
process. So
yes.
again, do the due diligence way ahead of the time, because when the opportunity comes in, you need to be ready. You can't be struggling around when the opportunity shows.
I can't
Roxanne.
echo that enough. Please, please be ready. Be ready. Because I'm in the room, we're looking at the bid openings, and it's disheartening when you've worked really hard with a small business and you're in a role like mine and you find the one thing that they did wrong. And it's thrown out because it's not responsive because you've done something wrong on your bid. Instead of just carefully looking at it when you submit, look at all the rules and regulations in the RFPs, RFQs, and then submit. Don't be rushed. Don't try and do it the night before. I would just encourage always, always, always be prepared. But as far as the convention center is concerned, we have a couple things, like I mentioned, the website, the SCB Connect app. We have started as of last quarter what's called a Win With Convention Center. And what that is a quarterly event where I look at the upcoming projects the next 60 days or so. And I have the directors from those departments that's releasing those contracts come to an event. We only invite vendors that can supply those services for those actual solicitations. And you have the engagements. And I can tell you the first one I had last quarter, it reamed 3 contracts from one event. They were there 3 hours. Somebody walked in the door without a contract. Somebody walked out of the door with a contract at that one event. So I would just say that's about going back to being ready. That person was ready to engage the contract when he showed up. So just be ready when the opportunities happen.
So how do you get invited, though?
You get invited by Rashawn. What happens is you come to the website and you log in and put your information as a prospective vendor. Once you become a prospective vendor, you're on my list. So when the opportunity comes up, I invite every vendor. I do not discriminate. So if I have 25, if I have 100, that does the scope of work. All 100 is going to be invited. Now, the problem there is I may invite 100. I might get 5 to show up because we're too busy. We don't have anybody that can do it. I'm not sure that I'm not going to be handed the contract. So some people won't show up because it's just not going to get handed to them. But you get on a prospective list. You get invited to this event, and you show up, and if you're ready, you get to engage with the person that's actually putting the contract out to say, why do you ask for this certification? What can I do? Can you accept this? Can you do this? Everybody is in the room that's going to touch the contract that's going out. So you have an opportunity there.
Yeah, wonderful approach. The key there is you need to talk to Roshan about getting invited. And you need to be ready, because when Roshan invites you, she expects you to be ready. You don't need to be wasting her time, her business owner's time, or your own time, because you're not going to be selected.
Absolutely.
Jamark, how do you communicate your opportunities?
Yeah, again, it's slightly different than what you've heard so far. Auction is a very decentralized organization. We have about 7 regions and 23 hospitals. And each of these hospitals, some of these hospitals have CEOs that are responsible for the operation of their organization, and so they have a say in who gets a contract and whatnot. But the good news is that we're not a government entity; we are a private nonprofit, and we don't have any rules that governs RFPs and whatnot. That's a decision that's made by the CEOs or whoever owns the contract owner in the organization. We have to take care of patients. And if there's a leak in the roof, we can't do 3 bids waiting for people to bid and whatnot. We have to fix it right away. And so we do have a list of folks that we do business with, and we're constantly looking for more. I'd say we invite people to register, but we still have to tweak the policies that govern the organization's supply chain. For example, I just got, this is a win, just yesterday I had a meeting with a CFO and got him to agree that for every single RFP, when we do them, an opportunity to include or to look for a vendor that we're going to have a diverse supplier in the mix. And so that's a big win. So that means that takes place without my knowledge at times. So, and of course, as a team of two, we are rolling out, this is our second attempt at this portal. We had one at the beginning of last year, but it turned out to be with some challenges in it and not very user-friendly. And so we have one right now that was just approved and will be rolling out in a couple weeks. And so that's an opportunity. We don't invite folks to, we invite businesses to go register in the portal. It's not an open process because we want to manage expectation. Not every vendor can do business with Auctioneer. Let's just start there. You have to have experience, and you have to have at least some experience in doing business with large organization. And if you don't, then we have to, then we look at a tier 2 opportunity, all right? But if we're going to engage on a tier 1 level, then it has to be somebody with the experience to address our need according to our terms and conditions. Again, we take care of patients. We can't afford to get everything.
I get that. I get
stuff
that.
wrong,
But
right?
so I can pinpoint on that.
Yeah.
In order to get into your prospect list, they need to call Young Mark.
No, again, so there are diverse companies that when they want to do business with an organization, they don't show up and say, "Hi, I'm a diverse company. What do
Right.
you have for me?" No, they want to do business.
Right.
And so, by the way, I'm also a diverse company. Part of our vendor packet include a section to capture that information. We ask directly, are you a minority business, women-owned, veteran, LGBT ability? And so once you check that box, then that creates a flag that they pull me into the conversation.
Okay.
And so now I'm doing the preliminary vetting of collecting your certification and whatnot. Talking about certification, I know this is a state where DBE rules pretty much, but for us at Auctioneer, it's not gonna be an obstacle to do business with us because you have a DBE certification. But our goal is we don't really use DBE. We wear what I call ethnic and racial lenses to this work. And so we look at women-owned, we bank, we look at SRMDC and MSDC for minority. We look at ability and LGBT, I think LGBT Gulf South parent company, provide that certification. So we don't do that. I think DBE is primarily for government and agencies. Correct me if I'm wrong there. I'm not very.
It's heavy on the
Right. So
government.
as a corporation, that's what we look for. So if you have the DBE and we want to do business with you, once you become a vendor, we give you about 6 months to get the right certification. Okay. So that's how we deal with that. And so, yeah, we invite you, or if you just want to do business because you have connections, say with the hospital in Shreveport, once you identify yourself as a diverse company, they pull me into the conversation, and I do that kind of vetting and send you a vendor packet, and then you fill that, then you become a vendor. Now, there may be an opportunity now or an opportunity later. That's something to be determined on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, in summary, if you know a business owner, you can offer their services to that business owner, or you can go to the supply diversity office with your vendor package.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's ideally, if you're not familiar with Auctioneer and how to do business with Auctioneer, I'm probably the point of contact for you because I can walk you through the process, and we are obsessed about simplifying this process. Again, the bidding part is by invitation, and there's always going to be a diverse supplier part of the mix, but frankly, it's not that complicated. Once we have I was going to forget, the main way where we've been able to achieve some wins so far is by leveraging our relationship with the business advocacy organization, the certification agencies that I mentioned earlier, and just, for example, the diverse chambers. This chamber, we've had some wins since last year, for example. I mean, at last year's conference, we did business with a company right then and there, and this happened again this morning. So it happens just like that, and everybody in Auctioneer is empowered to make those types of calls if you have visibility on a contract. I have a budget for my area, and so I'm in need of products and services, and I just retained the services of a company right here and now today. And so
so wonderful. I think we get the message. It's you have a different ways to approach it.
Yeah.
As long as you get the information to the right place, it
That's
will go
right.
to. For the sake of time, we got coming closure. We got one more question to go, but before that, I want to acknowledge Ms. Sonia Oliva. She represents the New Orleans Procurement Office. So welcome. I'm glad to have you. If you have any comments for the audience, you're welcome to. The same.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Again, Sonia Oliva with the City of New Orleans Office of Supplier Diversity. My director, Lori Barthelemy, is here as well today, joining us, and as well as Shantae Bethley, our certification analyst. So we at the city, we process what's known as the state and local DBE certification and the renewals. It's annual renewals, and we engage in outreach, small business development. We help connect businesses also with these wonderful agencies. We have worked very closely with Roshana at the convention center. We go back and forth. She'll send us prospect businesses and let us know of opportunities. So if you have any opportunities, anybody, we do share them with our vendor registration of over 600 certified DBEs and counting. It's a daily hassle that we really like it. We enjoy meeting those small businesses and watching them grow, and hopefully get them to graduate the program, right, so they can go ahead and be big players with these corporations. So it's always a pleasure. We do have a table, so please come see us. We love to talk to you, get to know your business, and help you connect with opportunities.
Thank you, Ms. Sonia. I appreciate that. And thank you for the City of New Orleans Procurement Office for being here with us and sharing their opportunities. In closing, I have one little question at the end that if you would try to be brief, because for the sake of time, although it's an open question, so it might be a challenge. What would be your best advice that you will give an MBE in order to conquer your procurement process?
I think a lot of things have already been said, but I think taking note of the business that you're dealing with, if it's Tulane or Energy or the Convention Center or Auctioner, just understanding what they do. I think coming to them with a solution, maybe even identifying a problem they didn't know that they had, but to come to add value, because it isn't just about, hey, I'm here and I'm diverse and I need business. It's really about finding where your niche is and what can you help these businesses do. So you have to understand the business framework and how they operate. I think that would be a really good idea.
Wonderful. Rivers?
That was great comments about understanding the business, understanding the company you're approaching. Quick example, I had a company approach us about expanding our trade show booth. And it was this elaborate trade show booth that was $80,000. I said, we are a regulated utility company. I can imagine the feedback if you showed up with this $80,000 booth and your bills may not be affordable, if you know what I mean. So my point is to understand the confines of a regulated utility. Make sure that you're prepared. I keep saying that over and over again. The safety requirements. It's a dangerous industry. So we've got very rigorous safety requirements. We can help you understand those, but make sure any company that sets foot on property must be cleared through our third-party safety portal. So you've got to understand those requirements. We didn't talk about cybersecurity. That's another requirement. We're going to ask you about your technology to make sure that your system has the proper controls so that you don't corrupt our systems. So just understand those requirements. I call it patient persistence. You've got to be persistent, keep following up, keep knocking on the door. I mentioned that 3-year window for contracts, right? So you want to be front of mind when that opportunity does come up. So be patient, but still be persistent.
Roshan?
I echo the same sentiments. Be ready. And what that means is having your insurance, having your requirements that's requested of us, our agency. The only other thing I would say, being a government agency, I would always suggest that if this particular solicitation you're going after has already been had by someone, do a public records request and get a copy of theirs. Look at what we accepted. Look at what the pricing were. Because most of the time, estimating is a huge issue. You're way out the ballpark on a project. So
know your competition.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I just want to add to Gina's comment here. yes, you should know what we do. I mean, for auctioneer, it's very easy, right? We take care of patients, and that's what we do. But to understand the industry and the pain points that hospital are facing these days, it's a tough business and getting tougher. I talked earlier about the competition, but from a revenue level, taking care of patients that are underinsured, and that's why we launched this Healthy State Initiative, where we can take care of a patient, but we don't get reimbursed by the government dollar for dollar, right? And so those are pressures that are overall in our business. And so that creates opportunities to address some of the challenges that we face as an industry. So read up on what's going on in the hospital and the healthcare sector in the United States. As I said, $3 trillion. I mean, obviously, Auctioneer is very successful at what they do for a variety of reasons. I think, we have a very intentional C-suite that has been steering this organization for a while, and they do a great job, supported by a board of directors. But to small businesses out there, just understand, what we face and how we do what we do is very important. And, one question I usually ask prospect is, if you had the opportunity to meet someone in the organization that could help you get a contract, like, who would that be? So they assume that I know a lot about everything that's going on in the organization, but that's not the case at all. I know maybe a little bit about a lot, but I look at them as having a better understanding about what they do than I. And so when they ask me, so do you have opportunity in that? I'm like, so what would the ideal engagement? I just threw the question right back at them. What's an ideal engagement for you right now if you have a wish list? How can I help you get that? That's my role.
Thank you. Thank you. So if I can summary, be ready, know your technology, know your competition, know your industry. So in addition to that, I'm going to add something very simple that usually my buyers always tell me to remind small businesses, particularly small businesses. Pay attention to your emails. When you get invited, somebody took the time to go over your profile, review your capabilities, and felt that it was important to invite you to something. And if you don't get any response, guess what? Most likely you might get one extra one, but you might lose future invitations. It takes very little to say, thank you, I'm not interested, I'm not capable, whatever, but reply. Watch your email. It's not a good excuse to say, oh, I didn't get that email. It went to junk mail. Think about the buyer trying to find a supplier that needs to be reliable to do some business and can't even read the emails. Yep. Simple, but very important. I think I went over the time. I'm abusing the time a little bit, but I promised to open the floor for a couple of questions. So I have 2 questions. If you have anyone from the floor, I will take 2 questions. If not, we're going to wrap it up. Going once. Going twice.
Wow, we were that good.
Sold. So the bar is closed. I'm sorry, the panel is closed. I want to thank every one of you for your wisdom and your presence here to share this information to all of us. Thank you for being here and supporting your chamber. Remember, we're going to be here next year, so be here or be a square, right?
Thank you.
Thank you.